Hello everyone, hope you're having an amazing day and welcome to a brand new video on this channel. If you're just starting out with R or if you're an expert who wants to build on your existing R skills, then you should definitely subscribe to this channel. This series is designed to teach you everything you need to know about R vectors. I strongly recommend that you take detailed notes and practice each of the concepts on your own at least twice after watching the video. Do not hesitate to come back and watch sections of this video in case of doubts. In case of further doubts, feel free to post in the comment section below and I'll get back as soon as possible. Before we get into the video, let's quickly recap the learnings from the last video. In the last video, we explored the concepts of variables and understood why we need them in the first place. We also looked at the steps to create variables, the different types of information that can be stored inside variables, and finally reviewed the rules that govern variable names. In the first part in this series, we will gain the foundational knowledge on R vectors that will be very crucial for understanding the more complex topics covered later in this series. In the second part, we will learn to combine, compare, sort, and repeat vectors, and finally look at the steps to create named vectors. In the third part, we will learn to perform mathematical operations involving vectors and look at the concept of vector recycling. In the fourth part, we will learn the concepts of subsetting and manipulating vectors. And finally, in the last part, we will solve 10 interview-styled questions that involved vectors. In this video, we will explore the concept of vectors, learn the different approaches to create vectors in R, understand the concept of class and homogeneity, learn how we can modify the class of a vector, learn to count the number of elements within a vector, and a bunch of other topics that you see on the screen. A vector, the way we have learned in high school, is a quantity that provides the magnitude, aka the size, and the direction of an object. For example, when someone asks you for the address to a location, you just don't tell them that the location is 5 miles away, but you also provide them the directions to that location. Because otherwise the person will be clueless on which direction to take, as the address could be 5 miles in any direction. In math and physics, vectors contain numbers. But in R, vectors can store non-numeric information as well. For example, you can store the list of files in your computer, the attributes of a car, and lot of other non-numeric information inside vectors. We use the combine function to create a new vector. Simply enter the lowercase alphabet C followed by the list of elements within round brackets. Let's head to our console and create a vector with numbers 1, 2 and 3 and assign it to a variable named x. Press enter and you will see the new vector under the environment section. Now it might not be a great use of time to type the numbers one after another, especially when you have a long list of numbers. In that case, we can simply enter the first and last number with a colon sign in between. The way to read this is a list of numbers from 1 to 5. Let's create a vector with the first 20 positive integers by typing the function c followed by 1, then the colon sign, and then the number 20 between round brackets. As you see that R printed the vector with all its elements when I press enter. We can use the same approach to build a vector with negative numbers. Let's create a vector with integers from positive 2 to negative 5. As you see, R printed the elements for us to visually examine the numbers. In the methods we looked at, the difference between two consecutive integers was always 1. But say we wish to have an increment of 0.5 or 2, then we use the sequence function in these cases. The syntax of the sequence function starts with the function name seq followed by 3 parameters. The first parameter is from, which is the start number. The second parameter is to, which is the last number, and the third parameter is by, which is the amount by which we wish to increment the number from its preceding number. Let's see this in practice. Say I want to create a vector with integers between 1 and 10 and with a common difference of 3. Then I can type seq followed by from is equal to 1, comma 2 is equal to 10 and comma by is equal to 3 between round brackets, and as you see R printed the integers 1, 4, 7 and 10 with each separated by 3 units. In day-to-day usage, we can avoid writing from, to and by and simply write seq 1, 10, 3 between round brackets and get the same output vector. In order to look at the contents of a vector, we can simply type the variable that the vector is stored inside in the R console. Let's look at the vector x that we created earlier. As you see, when I type x in the R console, the numbers within x are printed in the console. You would have also observed the number 1 within square brackets. This simply denotes the starting position of the first element of this line. So the number 2 from vector x has position 2 and number 3 has position 3. These are also known as the indices of a vector. If I have a large vector which occupies more than one line in the R console, then what this tells us is that the first line contains 17 elements, the second line starts from element number 18, the third line starts from element number 35 and so on. We will review these indices in detail in the topic on subsetting vectors. We will now look at the different types of vectors. There are 5 main types of vectors that you see on the screen. The first one is integer, which we just looked at. The next type is double, which stores fractions. A simple example would be this vector that contains 3 fractions 1.5, 2.5 and 3.5. Third type is character, which stores non-numeric data. Remember that we enclose non-numeric information, aka strings, within double quotes. The fourth type is logical vector, which as the name suggests stores boolean or true-false values. The thing to note here is that we can simply abbreviate true and false with T and F respectively. The last type is complex, which as the name suggests is used to store complex numbers. As we are discussing vector types, we can also discuss an opposite scenario in which you receive a vector and wish to determine the nature of information stored within it, which is also known as the class of a vector. In order to determine the class, we pass the vector to the class function. As you see, when I pass this vector with elements 1, 2 and 3 to the class function, I get the output printed as numeric. Similarly, when I pass a vector with elements a, b and c to the class function, I get the output printed as character. Now let's look at a special case in which the vector contains both numbers and characters. As you see, when I pass this vector y to the class function, I get the class as character. You might be wondering on how did R conclude the class for this vector to character when this includes numbers as well. And this brings us to a very important property about vectors, which is known as homogeneity. As per this property, vectors can store information only of one type at a time, and hence when we try to add different classes into a vector, R goes ahead and converts them into a single class. The next question is, how does R do this? So R uses the hierarchy that you see on the screen to normalize classes. The highest priority is given to character, and what that means is that if you have even one character within a vector, then R will convert all other elements to characters. This action of normalizing classes is known as coercion. Similarly, next priority is given to complex numbers and so on. So if a vector contains integers and fractions, then R will coerce all the integers to double data type. Let's ascertain this with an example to make sure we fully understand the concept. When I try to add a random number to the mixed vector that we saw earlier, you see that I get an error, and this really confirms that R did coerce the numbers to characters. Another way to check this is that when I print the vector y, R added double quotes around the numbers, which indicates that these are no longer numbers. You will not see these double quotes when I print the vector x. But in a case we wish to manually override the class of a vector, then we can use the as family of functions. These functions are listed on the screen. Suppose I want to coerce x to a character, then I can pass x to as.character function and R will return a character vector. Similarly, I can pass this vector back to the function as.integer and R will coerce it back to an integer vector. In the last topic for this video, we will look at the length function, which helps us to count the number of elements within a vector. This function comes into play when we wish to extract elements from a vector, which we will look at in the last part of this series. The vectors we saw previously had very few numbers, but imagine you have a very large vector like the one you see on the screen. We can count the number of elements within it using the length function. Simply pass the vector to the length function as shown, and R will return the number of elements within it. That's it for this video. Hope you found it useful. Don't forget to share this with your friends and colleagues who are interested in learning R. Good luck and happy learning.